Good, good.
Test 1, 2.
Good morning, Roger. This is Scott. Can you hear me?
Yes, Scott, we hear you fine. We're gonna get started in about 5 minutes. We're just testing a couple sound checks, and we have the chairman Hosheit's here. We're ready to start, so hopefully we'll get everybody in 5 minutes.
Thank you so much.
You got there's 2 people on. They dialed in. I need caller ID, so we'll see. See real quick. I don't recognize the numbers.
I know Iqbal's coming. He'll be here. Or maybe it'd be Zoom. No, he's coming today. Iqbal is. Yeah, he told me, he texted me last night and said he's called and texted and said he's coming today, so. It's a
Yeah,
good.
one of them is Scott's the caller ID.
There you go.
You're promoting. Yeah.
I almost did.
How
Almost
long,
had there.
John, how long have you been chair?
I'm just like, no matter where I go, it's not right.
Magic chair.
It's like, there's no winning here. He's down there. I'll stay up here. It's all good.
Mhm. I didn't know that. Yeah. So a lot of years. Yeah, I've never been on health. Trying to think what energy I've never been on, you know, I mean.
Hey, morning.
I thought so.
There must have been a glitch or something.
It's worthwhile.
Or maybe they were looking
I think
at
so too.
somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, John.
It's fair.
I'm not even touching that one. Oh, we got it almost everything
Seem to
here.
be in quite the good mood this morning. Somebody else just joined.
Jared's here too, good.
Karen, Angie Thomas.
Angie's on, good,
Yes.
all right.
Good morning.
Full committee.
right, good morning, everyone. It's 9 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting of the Finance and Budget Committee to order. Ask that the clerk please call the roll.
Allen? Iqbal? Leonard?
Here.
Sanchez?
Here.
Sturgis? Thomas?
Here. All right, we have a quorum. First item of business is approval of the August
It's here.
26 minutes. Ms. Thomas is here. We'll reflect that in the minutes. Dr. Iqbal moves approval of the minutes. Ms. Allen seconds. Any edits to the minutes? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Iqbal? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Sturgis? Thomas?
All right.
Yes.
Yes, minutes are approved. Public comment, excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the committee or anyone online? Hearing none, we'll move to the treasurer's report. Mr. Rickard.
Good morning. Before
Morning.
you have the August weighted average investment yield report. You can see from the chart, we're earning about 60 basis points. And if you look at further on down to the next page, you have a graph showing where we're budgeted versus what we're actually earning. And our deficit as of August was about 133,000 from our budgeted versus actual numbers. We anticipate going forward that we're probably going to come in roughly $500,000 under on our interest revenue projections. On the good side, the cost of capital is probably at an all-time record low for the county. So for the multi-purpose building and other projects that the county would consider, those are probably projects that have a lot more validity in this type of environment than what we're going to earn on investments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rickard. Any questions of our treasurer? Hearing none, finance director's report. Mr. Anza, good morning.
Good morning. Included in the agenda packet, as always, would be the budget variances, which some commentary regarding where they're tracking in the various funds. We're starting to see things showing up in terms of budget variances that are related to COVID. So you may see some variances that are in funds or departments that are normally not, you would not see, but there are expenses having to do with COVID that have not yet been reimbursed, so that transfer has not yet occurred, but we're expecting it to. The one item I'd like to just focus on for a moment is in the coroner's general fund budget. They're tracking about 16.3% over on the year, according to the year-to-date budget for services expense. And this seems to be having to do with the 5 additional para-deputy coroners that were hired and the hours. They're seasonal employees and they're called on when needed. And there's also some commodities expenses related to COVID that are included in that. So we will, of course, need a budget adjustment, but I think the appropriate time to process a budget adjustment would be in the month of January, like we normally would do, rather than this month. I believe there's a resolution on that'll be going to the executive committee agenda that had been approved last month by this committee for a budget adjustment, but it was based on a projection, and we really normally wait till we know what the exact expenses are for within the coroner's office and then do the budget adjustment at that time. So we won't know that until the month of January. So I would recommend that when this comes up for vote in the executive committee or county board, that it would be voted against in the sense that it would be postponed until the month of January. I prepared for the first time this year the sheriff's custom year-to-date budget performance report, and this is where we try to take into account the timing differences in the budget and compare where they're at year-to-date and actual expense to a year-to-date version of the budget. It's not a perfect analysis because the timing of expenses coming in, we're not seeing all of the expenses, but it gives us a pretty good idea of where they're at. According to the report, let's see, there is a net variance of about $101,000 unfavorable, and that's because revenues are about $1,100,000 below the year-to-date budget, and expenditures are about $1 million under budget. So the net is that the revenue loss outweighs the savings by about 100,000. But the revenue loss is really due to COVID, and we're expecting that the savings from the payroll reimbursement will help to offset that. And so really, if you focus on just the expenditure variance of almost $1 million compared to the year-to-date budget, that's more than sufficient to fund some of these additional purchases that the sheriff's office has been making that were outside of the normal budget. And I think I was concerned at first when I saw that because I didn't have a chance to do the analysis to make sure that there would be sufficient savings, but there are. I mean, this analysis does prove that there's more than sufficient savings for that. So I no longer have that concern. If we look at the health insurance fund, as of the September 24th, we're running about $2 million more of collections from contributions by both employer and employee than what we've expended so far year to date. And this is a timing difference. It kind of moves up and down, and this is the time of the year it starts to move up. And then as we get closer to the end of the year, we have to factor in the accrued expenses. But overall, we seem to be trending around between $5.5 to $6 million of a cash balance, and we're currently at $6.1 million. I included in the my report regarding shared and direct state tax revenue a graph this time to show you where we were at collections of sales tax revenue. It's a little bit surprising in the sense that it looks like in terms of a month-by-month collection, we were down starting in the month of March, and then we were down more in April, down in May, but then June, when the stay-at-home orders started to impact the economy again with the relieving of that order, we started to see a rebound of sales tax in the month of June to be just about where we were at the same time for the month of June the previous year. That may have been the result of maybe pent-up demand, so it may just have been a temporary increase. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the following months if it comes back down a bit. But it was at least encouraging to see that it has been trending upward rather than downward. Overall, we're still $769,000 in terms of the state tax revenues compared to our budget, and $574,000 below where we were at year to date last year. And most of this, or all of it really, is the sales tax and RTA sales tax. We're actually trending upward in local use tax, probably because of the increase in internet sales. And then state income tax, interestingly, is $220,000 more than budget, but only about $60,000 more than where we were at last year. Court security fee revenue, we're still 44% below budget, even though the fee has been increased. So we're thinking that that has to do with the impact of the courts having been shut down. So we'll continue to watch that. And we have asked for the auditor's office and the chairman of the finance committee to work with the chief judge to have a resolution that would help transfer some of the excess funds that were missing from the court security fund as a result of this reduction in the court security fee rate that was in place for about, I think, let's see, April, that would have been for about 10 months of the year. So I don't have the authority to ask them to do that, but I think it would be better to be coming from you to do that. And I think once an amount can be determined and it could be transferred back in, then that should make us whole again for what was lost by that error in the fee. County share of state cannabis tax, year to date, we now have about $25,000. So there's small amounts coming in each month of roughly between $4,000 and $5,000. We should be receiving the first distribution of county-imposed cannabis tax in the month of October, so we have not seen that yet. The contingency balance is still unchanged from last month. Capital funds were 31% expended for building management. We're overexpended in information technology, but most of that has to do with COVID that should be reimbursed. And then the multi-use facility is about 29% expended. Quarterly receivables are about $3.2 million. Most of them have to do with probation salary reimbursements, which are 4-month in arrears. And this is normal. It can be as much as 6 months on average. So it's actually better than normal. FY21 budget update. As you know, I presented the status of the budget yesterday. During the night, I did find a little $184 tweak that I had to make to it regarding the proposed reduction in the state's attorney's salary line item. So I had to flush that through the report, and I sent you a revised report last night. So that does lower the amount that we were seeking to draw down from the savings from the CARES Act reimbursement for payroll by also the $184. So while we're on this subject, I would like to ask the Finance Committee's consent to go ahead and make the changes that I had proposed in my presentation yesterday, to go ahead and make those in the budget so that they can be incorporated in the draft budget. Of course, that would be pending approval by the full county board. There is the issue where several of those proposed reductions have to do with elected official offices. So if they do not agree to the reduction to those salary line items, which is within their authority to do so, then the board would have the authority to put it on what we've done in the past, an unallocated budget reduction line item. So in that way, we're not telling them what specific line item should be reduced, but we're just saying within the services group of line items, we're asking for this specific, or we're directing the specific reduction. But the only problem with that, I just want to make you aware of and have this be part of your consent, is that if they do not agree to a reduction in the salary line item that we're proposing, by moving it to the unallocated line item and out of the salary line item, then we're also losing the savings from FICA and our IMRF that would be associated with the salary line item reduction. So I would like to give them the choice of either accepting the proposed reduction to the line item at the amount that was proposed, or if they choose to put it on the unallocated line item, then we need to add to that the lost savings from FICA and IMRF. So it would be a larger amount if it would go on the unallocated line item. So I hope I didn't confuse you with that long explanation, but it's a subtlety that I think needs to be addressed so that we still end up in the same place in terms of the balanced budget, not having to look for more dollars to make up for the lost savings in FICA and IMRF. So I would like your informal consent to go ahead and do that.
All right, I think everyone had an opportunity to hear the presentation last night of the budget, and I just like to pull the committee for a consensus to move forward with the budget as presented yesterday, including the adjustment that Mr. Honzik just suggested. Right. If there's no objection, I'd encourage you to do so, and thank you again for what you've done. One point on your report that I just wanted to raise an issue on. Next month, as we get our proposal or information about the cannabis tax that's going to come in from the county imposed tax. I think it's appropriate at least to have a discussion item as to what we're going to do with those funds. I know the share of the state funds is programmed into specific uses. But the county imposed tax is not, and that's something that we, as a board, agreed that once the revenue would be generated, we would talk about using that. There was talk about earmarking it to, uses that would offsetting expenses like increase in prosecution or sheriff-related fees if it was appropriate. But of course, the funds are available for other use. And given the circumstance that we're in financially right now, we may want to choose to do something else. But that was, I agreed, or at least we agreed as a committee, that once that was imposed and when the money was going to start coming in, we get a sense for how much that's going to be, and then we can talk about specific uses for that. All right, so that may be a discussion item next month. Mr. Surgis?
At the end of the meeting yesterday, everybody was complimenting Joe. And I stayed quiet because I was dialing in. But to know that I got out of the meeting, went back and caught up on work right up until the debate started so I could watch that and then go through all those emotions and then come to first thing in the morning to know that he just went through millions of dollars of stuff and found a $184 adjustment. I am so glad, sir, that you were on our team. That's all I'm saying.
Was that at 3 in the morning or
It's
3:30?
pretty close to it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you again. Does that conclude your report, or is
Well,
there?
I did have just a couple of things from purchasing. As you know, our purchasing director, Teresa Dobriston, is no longer with the county. So Maria Calamia is now the interim director of purchasing. And so there's just a few items to mention on her behalf. And it's just to let you know that there were 2 bids that began, work was begun on during the month of August. And that was one for drug testing for court services and one for architectural engineering and construction manager at risk consultant for building management. There are about 20 bids in process and that they're working on. Bid savings for the year now total $1.1 million. There were actually 6 vehicles auctioned in the month of August, 6 Ford Taurus vehicles in the years 2013, 2015, for total sales of $22,500. So that does conclude my report.
All right. Any questions of Mr. Hanzik regarding the reports that have been presented? Hearing none, thank you. All right, we'll go on to new business. We have a number of resolutions this morning. The first is establishing a special revenue fund and adopting a budget for the homeless prevention and rapid rehousing services. Mr. Sanchez moves approval. Mr. Leonard seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
Yes.
Tom?
Okay, resolution's approved. Item B is a resolution establishing the fiscal year 2020 budget for the enterprise surcharge fund for the cross-country course. Mr. Leonard moves. Mr. Sanchez seconds. Discussion. Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution's approved. Item C is a resolution authorizing a revised budget for the coronavirus relief fund and budget adjustment in connection therewith. Mr. Sanchez moves, Ms. Allen seconds. Any discussion here? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution is approved. Item D is a resolution approving purchase of protective gear for the sheriff's mobile field force team. Mr. Leonard moves, Dr. Iqbal seconds. Discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
yes,
All right, the next few resolutions are contracts. Item E is a resolution for a contract for Kane County NCR Form Services. Ms. Allen moves. Dr. Iqbal seconds. Discussion. Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
yes,
Resolution's approved. F is a resolution approving a contract for Microsoft Enterprise Licensing for operating system software. Ms. Allen moves, Mr. Leonard seconds. Discussion.
Was there a competitor for this? I mean, are we locked into these guys forever and ever? This is just it.
Should I answer?
Yes.
The Microsoft is the platform that we
That's-
use for our operating systems for servers and desktops. And I don't see that changing in
Anytime
the
soon.
near future. A lot of that has dependencies on the software that we purchase for enterprise software solutions. It runs on Microsoft databases and Microsoft servers. So
Just curious. You're
Yeah.
smarter than me.
it is an enterprise license agreement that was part of a joint purchasing agreement with the state of Illinois. So that's basically how all the governments buy Microsoft licensing.
Thanks, Raj.
All right, any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
yes,
Resolution is approved. Item G is a resolution authorizing a contract with One Hope United for multi-systemic therapy services. Mr. Sanchez moves. Dr. Iqbal seconds. Discussion. Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
yes,
Resolution is approved. H is resolution approving operation and maintenance agreement for our stream and rainfall gauges. Ms. Allen moves. Dr. Iqbal seconds. Discussion. Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
yes,
It's that time of year where we have to approve snowplow services, unfortunately. The next two resolutions deal with that. I is a resolution for the county's snowplowing services. Ms. Allen moves. Mr. Sanchez seconds. Discussion. Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
yes,
Resolution is approved. J is the snow plowing service contract for the Mill Creek SSA. There a motion? Ms. Allen moves. Dr. Iqbal seconds. Discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
yes,
Resolution is approved. K is a resolution authorizing a contract extension for our vending machines. Mr. Leonard moves. Ms. Allen seconds. Any discussion here? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
yes,
Resolution is approved. L is a resolution authorizing a contract extension for fuel services involving the county and the Forest Preserve District and other intergovernmental agencies. Mr. Leonard moves. Dr. Iqbal seconds. Any discussion? Fuel prices are down. I guess that's good from a budget perspective. If there's no discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Igball? Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Surges? Thomas?
yes,
Resolution L is approved. Resolution M is a resolution authorizing an exception to the hiring policies for replacement personnel. Mr. Leonard moves. Ms. Allen seconds. This is for environmental and water resources. Any discussion here? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen. Igbo. Leonard.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Surges. Thomas.
Yes.
Resolution is approved. Item N is a resolution authorizing rehiring of the animal control warden. Ms. Allen moves, Dr. Iqbal seconds. Discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen. Igbo. Leonard.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Surges. Thomas.
Yes.
Resolution is approved. Resolution O is an authorization replacing the Director of Purchasing. Mr. Leonard moves, Dr. Iqbal seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen. Igbo. Leonard.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Surges. Thomas.
Yes.
Resolution is approved. Item P is a resolution, and I know we have a revised version of that here. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the revised version of the resolution for the issuance of an RFP for liquidity monitoring and treasury services analysis. Ms. Allen moves, Dr. Iqbal seconds. Any discussion here? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen. Leonard.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Surges.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Resolution P is approved. Resolution Q is not ready for our committee today, so I believe it's going to be presented at the Judicial Public Safety Committee meeting. So I'll simply take that off the agenda for consideration now. Moving on to Resolution R, it's authorizing reimbursement for board member membership renewal. Dr. Iqbal moves, Mr. Sanchez seconds. Discussion?
John, Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware of what this is.
All right. Who wants to present this? It's a resolution that says Dr. Iqbal's requested to be reimbursed for his payment of the Bar Association membership renewal fee. Is that the request? All right. And does that meet with our financial policies?
Well, it does. It's just that because it's coming out of the county board budget, it was just here for your approval.
All right. So we're talking about a $140 issue.
So this is for an individual thing, not a broad sweeping policy change.
Correct. It's a reimbursement for a specific item. Mr. Sanchez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think because he's being reimbursed, Dr. Iqbal wouldn't be able to move, second, or vote yes or no on the resolution. I think he would have to abstain.
All right. So who moved and who seconded that motion? Madam Clerk.
Igbo and Sanchez.
All right. So do you want to withdraw your motion and have it represented, Dr. Iqbal, in light of Mr. Sanchez's comments?
Sure. Yeah.
Be appropriate to do that, if you consider it. All right.
Proper protocol.
All right. So let's bring this back to the table. We have this resolution. Okay. Mr. Surges moves, Mr. Leonard seconds. All right. Further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen. Leonard.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Surges. Thomas.
Yes.
All right, resolution is approved. Item S is a resolution approving the amount of bond for our auditor. Ms. Allen moves. Mr. Leonard seconds. Discussion. I believe this is an annual resolution that we approve, just a housekeeping matter. If there is no discussion, I'll call for a vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen. Igbo. Leonard.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Surges. Thomas.
Yes.
Resolution S is approved. Resolution T is the formal approval. We took a kind of a straw poll earlier in the meeting, but this is approval to move on to the full, to executive committee and the full board, the draft fiscal year 2021 budget. Mr. Sanchez moves, Ms. Allen seconds. Any further discussion on this item? Again, thank you, Mr. Onzek, for bringing this together for us and your staff and everyone else that was involved in the process. If there's no discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen. Igball. Leonard.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Surges. Thomas.
yes,
Resolution is approved. Item U is a resolution authorizing an agreement with Employment and Employer Services to deliver on-the-job training services. Is there a motion? Dr. Iqbal moves. Is there a second? Mr. Sanchez seconds. Discussion. Mr. Leonard.
Yes, I had a chance to look at the resolution, and I saw where the executive committee approved this allocation of monies. It's just under $500,000, but it was not approved by the board, the WIB board, the Work Investment Board. And I'd like to move that we table this for 1 month until I can get clarification on that.
All right, before you make that motion, is Mr. Berger on the line?
Yes, Chairman Hoshide, I'm here today, and I think I can answer that question.
All right, please do.
So there's a provision in the bylaws for the Workforce Development Board, and it's a provision required by the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, our funder for this program. In short, the provision enables the executive committee of our Workforce Board to act on behalf of the full board for matters that need attention. So our office has been working closely with the executive committee, met with them to review this procurement. It was done at their request. It is to be financed with funds that are in our WIOA, that's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act budget for the current program year. The program would allow us to assist job seekers in being placed in employment with area employers and to be trained while they're on the job. The program allows us to reimburse employers for some of the expenses they incur because they are taking on the likely reduction in capacity and production associated with taking on staff that are not fully prepared to perform their job as a veteran employee would. So this resolution is a total of $488,000. $300,000 of that amount is to be utilized to reimburse employers for their expenses, for their wages. We're talking about $10,000 each for 30 placements in employment. This item would have normally gone to the Jobs Committee first, but it was not possible to get a meeting together working with the co-chairs of the Jobs Committee. We were not able to get that meeting scheduled, so it's coming to you for review and consideration. We're asking that you send this on to the full Executive Committee and Board for action in October. That would allow us to ramp up these services and begin to help job seekers looking for employment and employers looking to fill their vacancies and increase their production in the immediate future. So we're asking that you take action on this today.
All right, thank you, Mr. Berger. Before, any questions of Mr. Berger, Mr. Surgis?
I'm trying to follow along in the agenda that was emailed out to us. And I just don't even have this on that agenda. Am I just off base today somehow and looking at something wrong?
On the agenda.
So this item was not included initially in the packet that was posted to the county's website. I believe yesterday early in the day, Monday early in the day, the item was posted to the county's website alongside your agenda packet. Additionally, you should have received an email from me. I sent out this item, this executive summary resolution, along with some attached documents that are required to all members of the Finance Committee. As a courtesy, I did copy the members of the Jobs Committee as well, given that this would normally have gone through their review before your review. So I've tried to make sure everyone has the information that is before the Finance Committee today. And Mr. Surges, I'd be happy to re-forward that email to you if that's helpful.
No, if I missed that, I apologize. I reviewed this over the weekend and then I'm looking at this now.
Yeah,
and I'm going,
this item,
it's bad enough I
this
missed
would have
Mo's
come out
thing.
on-
I just feel like I'm not in sync today. I apologize. So I'm just trying
yeah,
to.
this would have come out.
Right.
This would have come
Dr.
out Monday morning.
Dr. Iqbal?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Surges is correct. This was a request to Job Committee to have a special meeting before the call meeting yesterday, but it didn't happen. We did not have this resolution in time. So I thank you very much for accommodating this resolution. It came at the very last minute. And then the controversy developed on this resolution. The controversy is that this authorization, this comes from the Workforce Development or Workforce Investment Development Board, but it was not passed by the board. It was passed by the executive committee of that board. Now, that board is a 3-county board, Kane, Kendall, and DeKalb, and there are 40 members of that board. 2 of our board members, one present member, Mr. Leonard, is on that board, and Ron Ford, who used to be board member, is on that board. But the board has not met for a long time. It is supposed to meet every 3 months. So they have a provision that if they don't meet or something happens, it's an urgency, then the executive committee could pass a resolution on behalf of the board, but they have to get it ratified by the board within certain time. On the next meeting, probably.
So have they, Mo, are you suggesting
Actually,
that
point
they've
of-
met that
point of
obligation or they've
clarification.
not met that?
Point of clarification.
Technically, they have met the,
Yeah.
okay. Technically, they have met the requirement, provided they meet again within 3 months. But the technology is there. They don't have to meet in person. They can meet via Zoom. And the suggestion that has come up is that they meet within this week before the exec committee meeting so that we could have this resolution presented to the executive committee meeting and it goes before the board. So as I understand, the motion to table is to table it here, let Mr. Berger arrange that board meeting, have this passed through that board, and then a new resolution would come at the executive committee meeting. This is my understanding.
I would be supportive.
All right, well, in order for, if it's a motion to table, then that would go back to a different committee and come back next month. If you could move it on to the executive committee, subject to being withdrawn at the time of the executive committee if the interim steps haven't been taken. So that's why I wanted to just get clarification. I think the move to table would be to set it over another month.
Yes.
The consequence of that is we don't lose funds or the program doesn't go away. It just delays the implementation of the program. And I think the concern of the committee, as I understand it, was that the sooner it gets implemented, the better, for the intended recipients. Mr. Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am fully in support of this resolution. I just want to make sure we go through the right process. And I would be happy to amend my motion with the understanding that, we would have a work investment board meeting within the next week before the executive committee, which I'm sure it will be approved. I just want to make sure we use the proper process.
Why don't
So-
you make a suggestion is that you could move that we approve this, but have it off the consent agenda, at least just move it to exec. And if we don't have it by then, we can table it at exec.
If we don't have the
Yeah.
WIB board.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I'll move that.
All right, moved by Mr. Leonard, second by Dr. Iqbal. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Ms. Thomas. I have a comment and then a question.
Yes.
Just to remind everybody that the Workforce Development Board Executive Committee is inclusive of county liaison members or officers. So the Executive Committee includes 3 representatives from each county. So, And as Director Berger already mentioned, and as the Jobs Committee has had the opportunity to see for ourselves, the bylaws do authorize Executive Committee to act on the board's behalf, especially with respect to issues that require timely action. But I would like to hear from Director Berger. I think he was trying to clarify something that was said. So if he's still on the line, I'd like to hear from him.
I am
Mr.
here,
Berger.
yes.
Mr. Berger, do you have
Yes.
anything to clarify from the discussion that you just heard?
Yes, I simply wanted to clarify Mr. Iqbal's remarks. In fact, our bylaws for the Workforce Board do not require a ratification vote of the full Workforce Board in any matter that the Executive Committee takes up on behalf of the board and moves forward. Our requirement is to inform the full board of that decision on their behalf. This has happened a number of times over the last several years in response to DCEO's request that we have this expedited approval process. And I want to clarify that under the bylaws of the Workforce Board, the item in front of you is fully authorized and ready for your consideration today. So the Executive Committee of the Workforce Board, speaking with full authority under the bylaws that govern our program and the three-county board, has delivered to you an item that is ready for your action today.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been very close to this process for the last 8 years. And the problem that we have, the problem that's been created here, is that we have not had a Workforce Investment Board full meeting in 16 months. We have 40 volunteers who take their time, 7:30 a.m. in the morning, and I go to those meetings, and I've gone to those meetings for 8 years. And they haven't had a meeting demonstrating respect for their offer of public service in 16 months. It is true, if you parse out the words, that the Executive Committee can take emergency when time isn't present. But if you don't have a meeting for 16 months, well, then everything is going to be an emergency. So if you'd put up on the screen, a part of the bylaws that has not been presented to board members. I saw the memo that went out at 4:21 p.m. yesterday, September 29th. It didn't include this section that says regular meetings of the board shall be held at a place determined. It's over at the one of the union halls. Where they're kind enough to let us gather. We can do it by Zoom, certainly. At such times and as often as they may deem necessary, but at a minimum, the board shall meet 4 times a year. It's literally true that the bylaws say, yeah, an executive committee doesn't have to be ratified. However, you know that it's the spirit of the governance of that body that it does get ratified. You don't run a board through an executive committee. We don't do that here. They don't do that there. I can assure you from having direct conversations with people that the elected chairman of the WIB board wants a meeting next week. Katie Beta is a wonderful, strong person, very frustrated by what's going on right now. She wants a meeting next week. She's had pushback. Confirmed that with her at approximately 1:30 yesterday afternoon. The chairman of DeKalb County, Mark Petrosky, wants a board meeting.
Point of order. I don't think we should get into he said, she said. If Ms. Beatty is not here to relay her concerns, I think you should refrain from telling us what she may have or may not have said.
I'm providing background. Mr. Chairman, would it be okay if I continue?
Yes,
I spent a lot
Mr.
of time
Chairman
on this.
has the floor, so he's entitled to continue.
Thank you. The chairman of DeKalb County, Mark Petrosky, I've talked with him in the last 24 hours. He would like a meeting immediately in the next week. Scott Greider is the elected chairman of Kendall County. He would like a meeting in the next week, and I would like a meeting in the next week. This is an important context to put a parsed portion
of bylaws that, yeah, an executive committee can hand it to you. I wouldn't split the final hair of, well, move it along conditional on a meeting next week. If they have it Monday or Tuesday, I'd be happy to expedite it even by putting it on the agenda and providing notice on Friday of this week to have it ready for action and discussion and passage. But if it takes place on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, then we would still be able to put it on the board meeting because this is a good program. I understand that. Anything that's going to get people back to work, it's great. The what we're doing is good. How we're doing it, as you can tell, is terrible. 16 months without a meeting. Frankly, and if the board wants to run the everyday work of the county business and the 3-county business, this is a shameful failure of governance. This morning at 8 a.m., I was on the telephone with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. They show up figuratively, it's going to be a Zoom meeting, on Monday morning to go over problems and to do the typical monitoring that they do periodically. And I meet with them when they come. I haven't met with them in a long time, but they're on Monday morning, let's see, it's the division manager of monitoring and performance in the Office of Employment and Training, along with Lisa Jones, who is she's a policy manager expert. They're going to be going over, and they tell me this morning at 8 o'clock that there are problems with our WIB function in 3 areas at least: governance, expenditures, and placement performance. So none of that, I don't think that Dr. Iqbal is aware. I was not aware until this morning. I believe that Steve Weber, one of your co-chairmen of Jobs Committee, was not aware. And when we're talking about compliance, we need to comply in full context of quarterly meetings. That needs to be done. All of this would have been avoided if we just had quarterly meetings by the bylaws. So I'd be happy to do whatever the Finance Committee would like to do as far as scheduling things for next week. The motion, I certainly support that. What needs to take place in the next week is a meeting of the full WIB board.
All right, any further discussion on this? All right, we have a motion to move this on to executive committee for consideration. And at that point, we can evaluate whether this meeting has happened or not, and then make a determination as to whether we send it on to the full board. That would be the consequence of approving that.
So, Mr. Chairman, how do you do that? You
It's on, we'll move it
vote
forward.
in favor,
Yes, and then,
move it forward.
right. I mean, there's been a number of resolutions in the past that have moved on to executive committee and either been tabled or voted down, and because of the size of this committee or because of the issue, we anticipated it would be resolved, but then by the time it gets there, it isn't. So until it goes to really, there's 2 more steps before this resolution would be approved. It's got to be approved by executive committee and moved on to the full board, and then the full board will take a vote on it.
Do you ever just motion these to be subject to approval of their full board?
Well, you could,
That
that would require a modification of the resolution. I think that may be appropriate to consider at the executive committee. If we wanted, depending on what happens, it may be a moot point, because if there's a meeting between now and then and the issue's resolved, then it's moot and we can move forward. Mr. Leonard?
Mr. Chairman, I guess, like I said before, I'm fully in support of this. I think it's a much needed program. We need to do the funding. It seems to me like what I hear from Chairman Lawson, all 3 county chairmen would like to have a meeting. The chairman of the committee would like to have a meeting. Is that possible, Mr. Berger, for you to schedule a meeting for us before the executive committee so that we can move it forward, not only from here, but to the executive committee and then to the county board for approval?
I would say that will be difficult. It may be better for you to reject this resolution, and we will start fresh following the Workforce Board's action.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Berger. Why it would be difficult since we have the technology and it's a Zoom meeting, why it would be difficult to arrange a meeting within a week?
Well, the reason I say that is because we've been in communication with the chair of the Workforce Board and the executive committee of that board. And per their request and our discussion with them, our plan is to conduct an informational meeting with the full board where they're fully briefed on a number of items that are either completed or underway. It will take time for us to develop that packet and notify board members, make sure they're available, and secure a quorum. I will also comment that I'm actually on vacation this week, so I'm dialing in from Indianapolis. So I'm not in the office, and it would be difficult for me to perform my job as if I were.
Mr. Berger, do you have an assistant or associate who could handle all this?
Not on that short time frame right now, given the volume of work that we're dealing with elsewhere.
Right. Any further discussion?
Chairman.
So do I understand correctly that recommendation from Scott Berger is to withdraw this whole action and then that we follow up? The loose end is, as has been asked in Job Committee, when will the meeting take place? And that is at the heart of it. Not is it possible to do a Zoom meeting? Who is here or who is not here after 16 months of no meetings? It's when's the next meeting going to take place? The withdrawal of this is fine either way. I'm sure it's fine with this committee. And when it's soup, then we bring it to be served and have the proper votes. But the loose end, if we just withdraw the action, is when do all these people who are in elected, responsible, accountable positions get satisfied by the professional staff in compliance with those requirements that are set by the state government and statute?
All right, I'm going to call for a vote on the resolution. We have a resolution on the floor. I'm going to call for a vote. Madam Clerk, please, the motion is to move this on to executive committee for further consideration. Go ahead.
Allen? Igbó?
No.
Leonard?
No.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Sturgis? Thomas?
Yes.
O'Shea?
All right, there's a tie. I'm going to move it on to, I'll vote yes to move it on to executive committee. Again, I know we talked about timings of meetings and we can have further discussion and get a larger pool of individuals. I think the appropriate thing to do at executive committee would be, if we're not ready to move this forward, a motion to table it and send it back to Jobs Committee for further consideration, if that's the will of the group. All right. Next item is a resolution for claims be paid, or monthly bills being paid. Is there a motion on that? Dr. Iqbal moves. Ms. Allen seconds. Discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Igbó?
Yes.
Leonard?
Yes.
Sanchez?
Yes.
Sturgis? Thomas?
Yes.
All right, resolution is approved.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I interrupt for a moment? This
Yes.
is my mistake. Can we go back to Resolution M, authorizing exception to the county financial policies regarding personnel, hiring, and replacement? The resolution that passed through our E&E committee was to hire a resource management coordinator for $60,000. And our request was to increase that to $65,000 for the new hire. So I'm sorry, that slipped through my fingers when it went through. So can we go back to M and make that change?
Is there a motion to reconsider Resolution M? Mr. Sanchez moves, Mr. Leonard seconds.
Does that reconsideration need to be by the person who made the motion?
I think Deb maybe made the motion.
Deb, did you make it?
I think so.
Can you tell me who moved Resolution M?
Yes, Leonard and Allen.
All right, so Mr. Leonard, you move to reconsider. Ms. Allen, do you second? All right, now, what Ms. Wonicky indicated was that the resolution is presented in, at least in the, not in the text of the resolution, but in the sheet that explained, the memo explaining the resolution had an appropriation amount of 60,000, and what you're suggesting is that that appropriation amount be 65,000.
Correct, thank you.
All right. So then we're back on the floor to reconsider. We have the resolution as presented was for $60,000. Is there a motion to amend that resolution to increase the sum to $65,000? Mr. Leonard moves, Mr. Surges seconds. Discussion? Hearing none on the amendment.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So this is just a typo? The information didn't come from the committee correctly?
Did the
Didn't
committee recommend 65,000 and approve 65,000 at the committee?
No, it went through the committee at 60,000, but the E&E department has been interviewing candidates for this position. They found an excellent candidate, and they wanted to up the 60,000 to 65,000 for her salary.
All right, so the committee approved 60. The request is to increase it based on the candidate that apparently is,
And I will say it's still
Duration.
below what our former resource management coordinator was earning. She moved on to the Conservation Foundation, so we're trying to fill that spot.
all right, any further discussion? I will take a vote on the amendment. First, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen. Igball.
Yes.
Leonard. Sanchez.
Yes.
Surges.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
All right, the amendment is approved. Now we'll take a vote on the resolution as amended. Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen. Igball.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Surges.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Resolution as amended is approved. All right, we don't have any items under old business this morning. We'll move on to the auditor's report. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The auditor's report is included in the agenda packet. As Director Onzik mentioned earlier regarding the impact of Resolution 19154 as it applies to the split between court security fees and children's waiting room fees. I had reported on this almost a year ago, I guess now, and was providing an update. The impact of the original resolution covered a 9-month period from July 2019 through March 20th.
Good point.
So way to make the report exciting. Yeah, a little background music.
Yeah, that was a nice nice added touch. The problem was that the judicial partners addressed the issue, but the correction was not made retroactively. So we had that 9-month period where the unintended consequences of the resolution were still in place. The children's waiting room has a budget, annual budget of $137,000, and it's been that way for several years. And during the 9-month period where the fees were not calculated in accordance with their intention, the children's waiting room got nearly $500,000, which is about 3.5 times their annual budget. And their current balance in the children's waiting room fund as of the third quarter of fiscal 20 is over $498,000. So they've certainly got more than adequate funds to cover normal operations. By contrast, the court security revenues this year are at $561,000 through 3 quarters, which is only about 42% of their budget, and they're operating at a deficit through the 3/4 of about $800,000 for that operation. And again, as Director Onzik mentioned, this is under the purview of the chief judge, and we just put this out there again for consideration. There are some colorful graphs in here to kind of help depict what. Can you go forward to that? It's the next. There you go. Okay, the other too small to see here, but the top graph shows the overall trend of the three new, the judicial facility, which was a newly created fund, and the relative impact of the children's waiting room, with that far left column being what those fees were on a monthly basis prior to the implementation. The next graph down shows provides additional comparison to the overall fines fees, and you can see that there's a dip, but that's to be expected with the shutdown basically of the court there for a while, and then it's starting to rebound. And then the last slide is just a straight comparison between the two funds, and this is only to provide some guidance because the corrected fee schedule, we can't go back and simply rerun the thousands of cases that were in there. So it's intended to provide guidance for the chief judge to hopefully suggest an amount that should be transferred. That was all I had on that part. The third quarter audit, the auditor's report for the third quarter fiscal 20. I didn't have it finished in time to be in the agenda packet, but it was circulated on Monday, so everybody had a chance to see that. I'm going to give an overview of that in just a moment, but for a moment here, I'm going to switch seats with Blair. Is your microphone live here?
Are you going to sing?
I might.
Okay.
Might, if I get my background music. Every month, I kind of shill for the Kane County Open Finance. I think it's a wonderful tool, and I just wanted to take, with the chairman's indulgence here, maybe 2 minutes to show pretty much how simple it is. Starting from the Kane County homepage, you see this icon here, it says Open Finance. Click there. And for example, if we wanted to look at payroll, there's a tab for payroll. Comes up, whoops, there we go. And if we were looking for payroll by employee, you go down to this panel, pull up the chart, and immediately it provides you with all of the payroll by employee. And you can either sort this because it's set on a descending basis. So you can go through all 2023 records if you'd like. Or you could go this way and you could pull up individual employees. You can see that it is broken down by, you can either take the full-time or part-time. In this particular option, we've got everybody. The blue segment is their base pay. Then you get overtime and other pay. And you have to remember that when you're looking at this, you can kind of hover over any one of those. You can see that this individual's total compensation is $157,443, base pay $89,000, $31,000 overtime, $36,000 in other pay. These are all real time. These are all cumulative year-to-date figures as of this point in time. They will not match up with the information that's displayed on the finance director's site because he does his on an annual basis to match the calendar year. But for those people who want to be able to see this information on a real-time basis, it's literally 4 clicks. So if I'm going to shut this down because I really didn't want to dwell on this, but there's lots and lots of information out here that is readily available. And I would encourage everybody here on this group and the county board as a whole to take advantage of it and ask us for additional ways that we can make this information even better and more useful for you. So,
Harry, how do you like this software package compared to the previous?
I like this one better because it provides the information on a real-time basis without the need to upload databases that we create internally. So it's much slicker. It is linked directly to our New World system. It's part of the Tyler product line. So it just it provides a lot of benefit. Provides much of the same information that we had in Kane County OpenGov, but as I said, it's on a real-time basis. We don't have to go in and create data files and upload the data files. So it's, that's a long answer. Yes, I like it. Okay, so.
Question?
Mr. Chairman?
On the charts, this is kind of a crazy question, but can copies be made off of, I mean, do you do the Control P, or is there an icon that says print and you print?
There are different options depending on what your technical skills are as to how that can be accomplished. But yes, they can all be, they can be printed, they can be shared, they can be developed, and they can be done in that chart format. And if I'd scrolled down lower, it would have been more in a spreadsheet style as well. So there's lots of different ways to view the information. Some people are more numeric and some are more visual.
It is amazing how powerful that is. I mean, when you talk with your constituents and you can say, you know, every penny that we ask from you and your family, you can see it on the internet at our website, and you can look over our shoulders and you can say, well, you know, Chris, I don't think you're doing this right or that part or any of us. And they're in touch to the penny in real time. Enormous responsiveness to what our constituents, if they're aware of it.
And that's the reason why I wanted to bring it forward again, because I mention it every month, but maybe I don't push it as aggressively as I should. So, so can we jump back then to the PowerPoint? All right. So this is, again, the quarterly report for the period that ended August 31st. So essentially 1 month ago today. I probably put this out a little faster than normal because of the budget process, and it's got some different factors that are included in this one. So there we go. This, again, for those of you who are familiar, this tells why we do it. It is a state statute that requires the county auditor to report this quarterly. And we always start with the widest overview. This county-wide funds split between the governmental funds and the proprietary funds. You can see these are all through August 31st. There's an annual budget, which is obviously the entire fiscal year, and then the year-to-date through the 3 quarters. We had $221 million worth of revenue through 3 quarters, expenditures of $232 million. We go through the various financing options, the encumbrances, come up with the net change. So we had the $267 million in countywide funds at the beginning of the year. We have $345 million basically at the end of the quarter ended August 31st. This is the breakdown of the governmental funds. And you can see the proprietary funds, they're a fairly small segment of those, but they're recorded as part of the countywides. The governmental funds then drop those out of the equation, and we can highlight then the general fund, the special revenue funds. There are about 147 special revenue funds that are active right now, and between all of the governmental funds, there's about 178. Again, through the same date, focused only on the governmental funds. We had $253 million at the beginning of the year. We ended the quarter with $331 million. And these are the splits then. You can see the various, and I wanted to point out within the non-major special revenue funds now, that's where the CRF money is sitting currently. So this is just a follow-up of the relative importance of the internal audits that we've done. We've brought 17 different funds into the budgetary process, which both allows us to comply with GAAP and improves our transparency in the process. The governmental funds then, this is the split we just looked at. There's total 331 million. In the middle column indicates all of those that have some sort of a restriction to where they are only available for certain expenditures. And of that, you can see that 93,103,000, which is updated from the original allocation to include the interest that our treasurer has generated on those funds. So we have a relatively small amount that is unassigned, unaudited, the 27.7 million. This is a levy extended by tax, by fund over the last 10 tax years. You can see that it has increased slightly as we have included new construction. The general fund has a number of sub-funds, and we started the year with 65 million in the general fund. We currently have 50.4 million in the general fund. This is something that I think is interesting just for comparison. This is the general fund revenue component breakdown through 3 quarters for the last 5 years. You can see the property tax revenues are basically the same, 18 million this year. And this is in terms of what they have been collected through 3 quarters. Our other tax revenues, the next biggest section. But it's just, to me, it's a good visual to be able to see the trends within those general fund revenue types. Again, this is the one that Mr. Surgis wanted to see. You can see the general fund balance through the year on a beginning and ending year with the individual quarterly balances. Comparison for the last 5 years, the 50.443 million is where we are currently at the 3rd quarter. And the general fund breakdown pie chart. So we've got, one of the other requirements is to report on our obligations. And we now have these are all the ones that hadn't changed. But now we've got a new issue for 2020 that in June this year, we issued $13,130,000 worth of general obligation bonds for the multi-purpose facility on the government complex. Interest, we are certainly grateful for the leadership that's been shown to allow us to finance that at 1.54%. We pay the interest semi-annually, but the first principal payments don't begin until 2025 and will be retired in 2029. So this is, you can see the slight uptick now in the 2020 column. That includes the 13.13 million. And this is the one that Cliff's been dying to see. This is my animated version of the green line shows the overall outstanding indebtedness. The blue line are the annual retirements, and the dots throughout are when we had issued bonds. Cleaned up a little bit. This is just our trend line for the 10-year history. And with we have the toll bridge revenue bonds as a separate item. And they're scheduled to be paid off over a much longer term. So we've got that broken down into 5-year increments. And if we have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions of Mr. Hunt? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next I'll entertain a motion to place on file the reports from the treasurer, finance director, and the auditor. Mr. Leonard moves, Ms. Allen seconds. Discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen, Big Bull, Leonard,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Thomas.
yes,
Resolution or motion is approved. There is no need for executive session, so if there's no further business, I'll,
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Surgis.
Tomorrow, what is today? So is Friday the deadline for the CAC small business grants?
Yes.
Were you able to get that pushed through Kane County Connects at all? You were going to try and see if we.
I have not yet, no.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, if I could just appeal to my fellow board members, I mean, I've pushed it out, my Facebook page, my LinkedIn page. I know that several other board members, somebody, 10 o'clock last night, could you make that public so we can just forward it? I mean, these funds are here, and I'm still getting people that are saying, we didn't know anything about it. And I'm running out of time, and I'm running out of ways. So if I could just appeal to everybody to, if you do the social media, just put a little blurb and get it out there. I mean, you know, let's try and help these folks that we can, so.
All right.
Yeah, just, yeah, I called the Chamber of Commerce in Elgin, and they have been sending email blasts.
Perfect.
Yeah, so
Thank you, Mo.
if you can call the local
And
chamber.
Melissa from the Northern Illinois Chamber LinkedIn me last night and said, thanks for getting that out. We're doing it one more time. So,
Okay. All right.
I
I'll
mean,
do it
just,
again.
all we can do is try, so.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Dr. Iqbal moves. Mr. Sanchez seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, cool. I didn't know we had that.